Good morning everybody and welcome to the 74th episode of the MyMuddlings podcast. I'm your host Julianne and I'd like to thank you all for joining me today. I'm a day late this week because yesterday I decided to play a little hooky, but I can probably talk about that later on in my chat about things segment. So there's not really any shop news, maybe just a little reminder that the Christmas self-striping yarn pre-orders are up in the shop. They are selling, so if you do want some and you want to have a good selection of yarn bases, definitely go and check them out because a couple of the yarn bases for the different colourways are selling down. So just a hot tip, if you want to get exactly what you want, maybe go and have a look and see if you can grab that now. Okay, so I guess I can just talk about what I have been working on. I'll start there. I am wearing my, I could probably talk about that actually because I'm wearing it today. I tried to wear it at the wedding that we went to on the weekend, but it was too warm, so it basically sat around all night. But yes, this is my Wool and Vine Yarns woven wrap that I showed last week, so I am wearing it today just to keep myself a little bit warmer. It's warm today, but I am wearing a sleeveless singlet, so because I will be cleaning this afternoon, doing my cleaning shift, so yeah, I'm just wearing something that will keep me nice and cool later, and just this to keep me a little bit warm. It's nice and light and it's very soft and I love it. It's my precious at the moment. So yeah, what I have been working on, I have one finished object for you today and a couple of whips. Now I know that I said that I'm keeping my whips to 5 at a time plus a weaving, and that is still the case. I still only have 5 active whips, but I've only really been working on 2. I did a few rows the other day on one of my other whips that I don't actually think I've spoken about on the podcast, but because I've not really done anything on it, I'm not going to talk about it today. It was just a few rows while I was watching Simon play some video games the other day. But I will just grab my first thing I'm going to talk about, which is my finished object. Alright, so this looks a little manky at this stage because it has not been blocked as yet. I only finished it last night, but it is my Trellis Work shawl, which is by my lovely friend Jess of the Sweater Collective. So I have finished this baby, and I ended up I actually quite like the blue now. It doesn't bother me at all that it's that I thought the blue was a little bit bright. It does have a good variegation in it, so I feel like, yeah, it works fine. So I took this to knit night on Monday night, and we were all sitting there, and I realised that I didn't know if I would have enough blue left to finish the shawl, because I was on my last, there's just this one little, as you can see in here, one little row of garter right before you finish. And I was knitting away and all the girls are going, ooh, you're getting a bit short on yarn there. I'm like, I know. But I thought, well, I'm just going to keep knitting, because if I stress out about it, I mean, the end result's going to be the same. So if I stress out about it and put it down, what's the point? So I kept knitting on it. And yes, I got to sort of on my return row, so I got all the way to across and then back, and I got to, you can see where my yarn ends are here, so I literally had that much that I lost yarn chicken with, and it wasn't very much at all. So that was kind of disappointing, but it didn't really matter in the end, because I was thinking to myself, well, I can either dye some more yarn to match the Circus Tonic Handmade, but I knew that it was only going to be this tiny, tiny little amount. So I had another colourway in my stash, which I actually forgot to bring in. I was going to bring it in to show you, but it doesn't really matter. And it was a singles base. It was slightly different actual base, whereas the Circus Tonic Handmade that I have here is just 100% superwash merino. The other base that I had was a Manos del Uruguay yarn. It's a yarn. and that was their Fino base, and that's a singles base, but it is, I think, a 70-30 merino silk. But I figured for the tiny little strand that was going to be in there that the silk content probably isn't going to make much difference. So you really cannot see, I mean, let me hold these up and see if you can see. Probably I can't. How am I going to cover this up so I block myself and you can see it? They are very, like, you can see that this is the Manastil Uruguay here. It is quite dark, and then there's the more primary blue up the top of the Circus Tonic handmade. So it was a very different type of blue. It was very much more of a navy blue than that more bright blue that the Circus Tonic was. But because I was on the wrong side row, and I'm doing garter stitch, you would never even know that there was a different colourway in there, because the pearl bumps ended up being the Circus Tonic handmade that I had from obviously the right row. So that's all fine. You can't actually even really tell on the back side that there is a slightly different tone of blue in there. It really made absolutely no difference, so I was really pleased with that. And luckily that Manastil Uruguay skein is actually quite a long skein. It had 490 yards. Even though it has the same sort of weight as this, it looked identical, although maybe a little bit lighter. Yeah, it was a very big skein, so even though I've used that little bit in here, I'm going to have tons left for another project. So yeah, I was pretty happy with that. So this is my finished shawl, and the only modifications I made on this, because I thought I was going to run out of yarn, was to omit the picot bind off. So this should have a picot bind off, but I knew I was running short of my main colour. And it was actually kind of a gamble for me to actually go through and put that last garter. I was actually just going to cast off before doing this final, so you can see that there's another garter row before the bind off. So I was going to not even put that in because I was worried about it. But I chanced putting in those 2 rows of garter, and I was looking at it, and I was going to get another contrast yarn or use the blue to bind off with. But I just looked at it. I looked at the amount of yarn that I had left, and I said to Simon, I'm like, I'm really tempted just to use this and see how I go. And he's just kind of looking at me like, you know, I mean, he's a knitter's husband, so he knows what I'm talking about. But, you know, his care factor is probably quite low. So, yeah, I chanced the bind off, and I did start doing it with the picot bind off. However, I decided that I would rip that out and just do it as a plain bind off, because I really didn't want to risk getting 3/4 of the way through my bind off and running out of yarn. In the end, I did have a little bit left. I haven't weighed it yet, but I would be very surprised if it's much more than 1 gram, 1 or 2 grams left. So if I had put the picots in, I think I probably would have lost again at Yarn Chicken. So I'm actually pretty, I'm actually glad that I just did the regular, you know, knit one, slip one over the top, bind off, and it's still quite stretchy. So yeah, now this just needs a block. So, and a block, and probably quite a vigorous like a soak, and then a vigorous blocking, because it is quite squished up. So because Jess's looks quite a bit bigger on the picture. But yeah, I'm really happy with it. The pattern was great as usual. Jess's patterns are always fantastic, and although I did have a go at her the other night at knit night, that these trellis work diamonds that are in the pattern, they have, I think I said last week, they have cross stitches. So they're essentially like, you know, twists. So it's only 2 stitches that twist. And I said to her, I said, though this, because she's a English style knitter, she's more of a picker rather than a, you know, a proper English. But I said to her, you can clearly see that it was an English knitter who created this pattern, because I usually knit continental on anything that's not socks. Usually I do my flicking on my right hand when I'm knitting socks, but when I'm knitting anything bigger than that, I knit continental. So those twisted stitches and doing, because the first half of the diamonds you're adding in pearls. So where am I? So this is the right way. So this section here, you're crossing, and your second stitch is a purl to create this reverse stockinette section. And those are really hard doing them with continental. So for those first, on the last repeat, I got through the whole shawl until the last repeat, and then I decided, well, I'll just knit those rows with my right hand because it made it a little bit easier. And my tension's usually pretty close between both my hands. So yeah, I just was sneaky on the last repeat and used my right hand to do those cross stitches because I was just like, oh my god. And yeah, so I poked a bit of fun at her on Monday night, and I said, you know, clearly it was designed by somebody who's an English knitter. We had a bit of a laugh. So yeah, this is finished. I'm done well and truly before the deadline, so that is fantastic. And by finishing this means I actually dug out my other shawl that I did a few rows on the other night that I'm not telling you about, but not that it's a secret. It's on my project pages. You can go and have a look. But I think I may be allergic to it because it's got my hair. So yeah. But yeah, that's my trellis shawl. Okay, for my first whip, I've actually just realised I've left it in a really awkward position. But that's okay. It is my flax light that I was knitting out of my yak base. And I have just been working on the body. This has been what I've pretty much picked up mostly since finishing my trellis work shawl. And I think I actually called it the trellis shawl just before, which is wrong. It's the trellis work shawl, or just trellis work. I'm not sure whether she's calling it a shawl. She hasn't got the project page up. But anyway, I'm talking about the flax light, which is a pattern by Tin Can Knits, and I'm knitting this in my yakety yak base undyed yarn. So it's got this lovely heathered kind of sheeny look to it, and I just love it. So I'm like, what, I guess 8 inches down from the underarm, I guess, around about 8 to 10 inches. So yeah, I think I need to do 15.5 inches. So I'm getting there. I am getting there. It has been good we've just started watching a new series on a YouTube podcaster that we really enjoy, and I was knitting on this last night while watching what that was. If anybody's interested, it is the Film Joy channel, and it is I think it's called the Film Joy channel, and it's Movies with Mikey, and but this one is called Deep Dive, and it's basically him and 4 friends, or 3 friends, the 4 of them, watch bad movies and try and find the good in them. So yeah, it's actually, we've just started last night watching that series that he has done. So if you're looking for a YouTube that's very interesting, it's about movies, you like movies, definitely check him out. I'll put a link in the show notes for you to find it. But yeah, so I was just knitting on this last night while we were watching them try and find the good in some bad movies. So yeah, there's not really much to talk about. It's just round and round in stockinette, and yeah, I'm super keen to get this done, and so I've just been working on it. And that's about all there is to say about that. And the last thing I've been working on is the Big Brown Socks of Doom. So I don't know whether I showed you guys the finished first sock. I did finish the first one, and this is Lorna's Lace's Soulmate in the colour Worcester, and it's brown. It's a lovely brown, but it's brown, and it's boring. So I finished my first sock a little while ago, and I cast on the second, as you do. I've never really been one for second sock syndrome. I'm happy just to continue on. And it literally took me longer than it should have to do this cuff. It's a 24 round cuff, which is my regular sort of approximately 2-inch cuff that I knit on all my socks. And it really did take a lot longer than than it really should have. After I lost at Yarn Chicken with my Trellis Work shawl on Monday night, I dug this sock out. So I did work on this at knit night, and I ended up doing, and I don't like ribbing. I mean, if you've been watching me for a while, you know that I don't enjoy ribbing. And I ended up doing like 2 or 3 rounds extra of ribbing than I needed to, because I couldn't see properly in the lighting in the cafe to count these brown rounds accurately enough to know that I was finished and I could move on to the easy part, which is the stockinette. But yeah, so I've been going a little early to work, like I've spoken about before, to go pick up Simon, just so I can get a few rounds done on these. And now that the weather's heating up, he's probably not wearing his hand knit socks as much as he did when it was cold. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep plugging away, get them finished, and I have a super awesome carrot on a stick to try and help me get through these. And I want to actually show you my little pin before I continue on. I got this pin from Knit Picks, and I thought it was super cute, just a little sock, because this is my bag that I always use for socks. So I keep my DPNs in there, a few stitch markers and things like that, because I always use this to knit my socks with. And this was a bag that I got from Unwind Yarn Company. And yeah, I thought getting a little pin for my sock bag would be really fun. I actually used it to take my order total up to $100. So man, I got free shipping and I got a little pin. But as I was saying, I've got some awesome yarn that is there's only 2 of a kind of these, and these are from my friend Emma, and I know Emma watches, so hi Emma. She's not crafty, but she watches, bless her heart. These are an 8-stripe sock yarn. And after dyeing this yarn, I realised I hate dyeing 8-striped yarn, so that's never happening again. I think I've decided that 6 stripes is my limit, but yes, this is an 8-stripe yarn, and Emma and I are going to have BFF socks. So I did dye another skein that I'm going to use. It's hard to see, it's blowing out a lot, but it's basically a very pale purple. I'm thinking of maybe adding some more purple to it, but Emma said that she quite liked this, so I might stick with that. Or maybe I'll knit hers with this and then add a bit more dye for mine, so they're not 100% identical, but they're pretty close. So, let's pop that back there. Yeah, so this is an 8-stripe sock yarn. So this is what I want to get onto after finishing Simon's sock. So to me, this is an awesome carrot on a stick to try and get those done. But it's still hard. It's a struggle, you know. We'll pop those back. What is it people say? The struggle is real with those socks. It is definitely real. So apart from a little bit of weaving, that is all I really have to talk about. And my weaving is pretty well similar to what I am wearing. Although I do have something interesting to talk about how I actually got this going. And I'm just going to grab something that I want to share with you as well. Hang on. So before I talk about the weaving, let's talk about something that I treat myself to. I follow a wonderful weaver on Instagram called Nanette Wake. So I think her handle is Nanette Wake Studios. I'll put it in the down bar just in case I get that wrong. And she mentioned that she was having a 70% off sale in her shop, or 60% off, because it was her 60th birthday, and she put a bunch of items on 60% off. And I really wanted to, perhaps if she had some of her bags, because she makes hand-woven knitters project bags, and I was wondering if she had any of her bags in there for the sale that she was trying to get rid of. Unfortunately, no, there wasn't, but being a weaver myself, I saw this. She had a shuttle, and I really wanted to try a boat shuttle, and I looked on Ashford, which is the same brand as my loom, and I think they were close to $100, somewhere up definitely above $50 for a boat shuttle, and I was like, yeah, it's a little bit out of my price range. And Ashford have changed their shipping now as well, which is a little unfortunate because it used to be free over $100, I believe, and I think it was only $10 flat other than that, but now they're doing $20 flat shipping on everything. So something that's $50 to $100 suddenly is $20 more extra, even though it's not going to cost $20 to ship this. So that's slightly unfortunate. It's made me not want to purchase from them unless it's a big item or I'm buying a lot. Yeah, which is unfortunate because I've always had really good experiences with Ashford, and yeah, $20 flat rate shipping even on small items I think is a little bit rich. But anyway, that's my little rant over. But yeah, Nanette had this up for sale. It's a Saori, I think that's how you say it, Saori boat shuttle, and it was on for 60% off. So I think she had it originally listed for nearly $80 American, and I got it for $29, I think. And shipping was only about $20. So I got this for about 50 bucks. And yeah, I'm super thrilled to have it. I did think it came with a bobbin, but because it was in the pictures, but it wasn't actually in the listing. So yes, she was right by sending me just the boat. I mean, I can imagine she can use the bobbins in any of her shuttles. So I need to hook myself up with some shuttles so I can use this. I've been wondering whether I could just use a straw before I, as a little hack, before I buy some more, you know, while I'm waiting for my other bobbins, because I'd love to start weaving with this like ASAP. And yeah, so once I'm done with my shuttle stick load of yarn that I'm weaving into my project, I'm going to swap to this. So yeah, I treated myself to a little boat shuttle, which I'm really happy with. And to talk about my weaving that I currently have, I'm pointing over there because that's where my loom is on my desk here in my craft room. I'm using exactly the same yarns that I used for this wrap. So I wanted to finish off the balls of yarn by making another scarf. Because I did mention last week that I thought I might make bag fabric out of it, but I thought these silk blends are a little bit too precious to just have as a bag that you basically use to protect your knitting inside. I didn't really want it to be something that got bashed around because I thought it was a little bit more precious than that, especially because of the Woolen Vine yarn as well. And I know a lot of people struggle to get their hands on her yarn. So I thought I was better, the yarns were better suited to doing a scarf. So basically what I did, because I've been struggling, because of the lack of space in my house, I've spoken about this before, it's a very small house. I think we're about 83 square meters. It's a very small house. I struggle to find enough length in the house because we have a lot of stuff in a small house. Yes, I know I need to declutter. I've spoken about it before. It will happen eventually. This room needs to be done. But after that little tangent, I struggle to find enough length in the house to wind, you know, to do my warp. And this warp for this wrap was basically the longest that I'm able to do. So I had my loom up one end of my market trestle table, and then I had the winding peg up the other end. And I still cannot, this isn't really great double wrapped. If I was to double wrap it, like the knot is like literally just above the fringe. So it's not quite long enough. And I thought for a scarf especially, you want, I prefer much longer scarves so that you can do more with it. You can knot it, you can wrap it different ways. So basically what I did is I got out my warping board, which you can just see here. And that's what I've previously used to create my self-striping sock yarn loops. And you know, warping boards are for warping a loom. That's what they're actually made for, but I use it for my self-striping. But anyway, so I thought I've been really kind of a little bit clueless as to how I would warp, because often with larger looms, because I've got the rigid hurdle loom, but with larger looms you create your warp loop, and then you take it to your loom, and then you have a way of getting it onto your what are they called, rods, the rods that are attached to your beams, so that you can move your warp to and fro. And I've never quite understood how I could get it on, because it was a loop, obviously, and my bars are attached to my loom, so I can't take them off to thread through the loop. So I was a little bit clueless, but then on the weekend I got an email from Craftsy, and I think it actually ends today or tomorrow, because it'll be American time, but they've had a free period where you can go to Blueprint, log in with your Craftsy details, and then you can watch any class for free. So on the weekend I watched 2 weaving classes, and the first class that I watched was actually one that I wanted to buy, but I was actually glad that I didn't after seeing it, because it was like $50 to buy it, and I was like really glad I didn't spend that money on that class. But I mean, there was some interesting things in there, but it just wasn't worth the whole amount to me, which is one of the fantastic things about free access. But yeah, she basically had a free beam, so she could just go through, and I was like, it seems a bit of a bummer. But then just things that I was picking up while watching it, and I watched some Ashford videos with Kate showing you how she warps looms and things like that, and she shows you how to twist a warp, like to wind a warp, and I thought I'd give it a crack. So basically I made a big loop, and I put a cross in one section so I could, you know, keep my what do you call them, my strands in order, so as they cross they're keeping them in order. And I basically took this big loop, brought it to my loom, and cut the end and thread the ends through my reed. So it's kind of, it felt like a little bit of double handling, but I was able to get a 3 meter long warp, which is something that I've not been able to do previously, because I just don't have 3 meters in my house that I can do it with. So that was a bit of a thrill. So I was able to do that, and then I learnt a new tensioning onto the front beam technique that also was from Kate at Ashford. I'll put some links in the show notes so if you are a weaver and you're interested, but it was a much easier way to tension when you tie on to your front beam. So yeah, I learned a lot, and I'm really thrilled with the new skills that I have. So yeah, so now I'm doing another scarf. I did get my yarns a little bit out of order because, stupid me, I undid the waist yarn that was holding the cross in place, and then it kind of just collapsed, and then I couldn't find the strands 100% in order. So that's a what do you call it, a tip for young players. So that's something I'll have to keep in mind in future. But it's kind of created like, it almost looks, because as I showed you on this one, you can see that there's dark and light in the warp. So in the other scarf, it almost looks like tartan because of those dark and light sections. So it's really cool. And the hand-dyed yarn, the Woolenvine yarns, is beginning to do like a little bit of a stripe on the widths that I've got. So it's like, it's fantastic. It's turning out like a completely stress and work-free tartan almost. So I'm really thrilled with the way it's coming out. And I haven't decided whether this is something that I'm going to put in one of my shops or whether I'm going to keep it yet. We'll see how we go when it's finished. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this weave, and my edges have gotten even better. I've picked up some few tips from the Craftsy courses to keep my edges even cleaner, because I spoke about that last week, because that's something that every weaver kind of wants to ensure, that their edges are very clean. And I don't know if you can quite see, but there's like this little loop here that sits up above the others, and you kind of don't want that. You want everything to be nice and smooth on the edge. So yeah, my new project is looking really, really good, and I haven't had much of a chance to weave on it because there are a few things going on, and it's been my birthday, and I guess I can move on to things that have been happening, and my chatter blather segment. And let me just grab some water first because I can hear my voice beginning to crack. So first things first, as I mentioned in last week's episode, I had a wedding on Saturday, which was absolutely lovely. Got all dolled up. If you follow my MyMuddlings Instagram, I put a photo of my fresh makeup look on there, and I had my top knot going, so I felt quite polished actually, which is not something that I usually feel when I go out to things like that. I had my new dress on, and yeah, I had my hair all pulled back, and I did it nice and slick, so it wasn't as casual as I've got it today. So it did look, because usually I don't know what to do with my hair when I go to something special. So yeah, I just did my top knot and made sure that I've, as you can see, I don't have all the bits out in the back today, because I discovered, you know, I have hair combs. Why not use a hair comb just to hold the back up? Which is what I've been doing, and that's what I did on Saturday. So I got all dolled up in my dress and did my makeup, and had my wrap, and yeah, I had a jacket, and it was so warm in there. There's just no need of it. But yeah, which was disappointing because I was hoping I could wear my wrap. But it just sat over my chair all night. But yeah, it was a great wedding. Beer and pizza, my favourite foods. And neither of them low carb though, which is what I try and stick to every day. But yeah, beer and pizza. The bride looked absolutely gorgeous. She always looks gorgeous, but her dress was just lovely. And yeah, they were both in tears, and it was just really sweet. They were really beautiful. So yeah, that was a really, really nice night. We caught up with a bunch of people that we haven't seen for a while. A great friend of mine has come down from Queensland because he was friends with the bride, and we got to spend a bunch of time with him. He sat with us most of the night, which was fantastic to catch up with him. I do miss him from time to time because yeah, he's been gone for 3 years now, I think, so I do miss him from time to time, so it was great to see him again and have a good chat. He's one of those friends that, you know, you can sit down after not seeing him for over a year and you're just like house on fire, just chatting backwards and forwards, and you just don't shut up. So I love friends like that, don't you? So yeah, we got to see him, and got to meet the baby of a couple friends of ours. We haven't met Jack before, so we got to meet Jack, and caught up with another friend and her 2 kids, and her husband, of course, and yeah, I haven't seen them for ages either. Their little ones shot right up, so yeah, it was a really, really nice night. So I really enjoyed that. And then what else? Tuesday I coloured my hair. It's purple, if you didn't notice. So that was a lot of fun. It was a little bit of a snafu though, because I was really, really thorough on my first colour, and I'd mixed up my colours because I only had a little bit of a blue and a purple left, so I put them together with some diluter just to give me a little bit more liquid. And I put it in and I massaged it, and I, you know, squeezed it all through my head, and I thought I'd done really, really well. And then I rinsed it out and I looked at it while it was wet and like, yeah, it looks alright. And then later on, once it had dried, I went to brush it, and I had an entire strip across the top of my head where the colour did not go in. And I thought, oh my god, I look like such a doofus. Simon did say to me that he said it looked like I'd done it on purpose, like it was a purposeful streak through my hair. And he said there was a couple of more at the back, and it's like, how on earth? I was so thorough, and I massaged it all in even though they say not to, and you know, all this kind of thing. So I ended up having to do a second coat. So Tuesday had 2 coats of purple in my hair, because this colour isn't easy really to put in either, because you put it in and then you cover your hair with plastic wrap, and blow dry it for 15 minutes. So I literally blow dried my hair under plastic wrap for 30 minutes on Tuesday evening. Tuesday. Yeah, just to get the colour that you can't really see all that well because I've got my hair pulled up. I love how my grey streaks got this really awesome purple here. But yeah, so that was fun. I mean, my hair turned out great, but I didn't really want to colour it twice in one day. And then, of course, Wednesday was my birthday. I'm the ripe old age of 36 now. And yeah, I have to say it was probably one of the better birthdays that I've had because it was literally the entire day was exactly what I wanted to do, which was awesome. And basically, as I said, I got my piercings done, so you will have noticed that already, that my nose is really, really swollen, so don't take this as indication of what I'm going to look like forever. My nose is super swollen. Like, I usually have a bit more of a pointy nose, but it's like really bulbous at the moment. So I got my nostril re-pierced, which is very, very swollen at the moment, and I got my septum done. So I was able to get my septum jewellery anodized purple, so it matches my hair. So yeah, that was Wednesday. Today's Friday because I played a bit of hooky yesterday. But yeah, after my piercings, I went to lunch with Simon because Simon, that was his present to me, was to take me to get my piercings done. And went to lunch and with a friend of mine, like very, very old friend of mine. We've known each other since we were 14 at school, so that was lovely. We had a nice lunch, had some pizza again, and wine, and our pizza actually ended up being really late. Like, it took really, really a long time, and because my friend Jo had a burger, her burger arrived way before Simon's and my pizza, so the guy who was like, I suppose you could call him the maitre d', he was the one kind of running the show on the day. I don't know what you call that generally, but he comped us a drink each, so that was fantastic. So all I knew was that I wanted to have a glass of wine with my lunch, and I ended up having two, which was great. And as for my piercings, they did not hurt hardly at all. From my friend Emma, we actually filmed it, so Emma's going to watch that tonight when she comes round. But yeah, Simon said, you didn't even look like it hurt at all. And it's like, well, it hurt, but it didn't hurt that bad. I'm a bit of a badass when it comes to pain. I don't feel a ton of pain. But yeah, so that was great. And then we just had a bit of a wander in town and came home, and I am the kind of person, I like video games, but I'm hopeless at them. I'm really not good at them. So I tend to live vicariously through Simon. So I wanted to see the game BioShock Infinite, and we started playing it, I think, on the weekend. And well, he started playing it, I started watching it. And then on Wednesday afternoon, he offered, you know, do you want to watch some more BioShock? So I'm like, yeah, definitely. And so I was knitting on my sweater, and I was knitting on my other shawl with the mohair in it, and I so far have not had a reaction to the mohair, so I'm hoping I might be okay. But yeah, I was watching him play BioShock Infinite, and then we had some dinner that I'd made previously, so I didn't even need to cook on my birthday, which is fantastic. So yeah, I had a really great day. It was a lot of fun. And then yesterday I had to clean the house because the house hadn't been cleaned for too long, and knowing that I've got guests coming tonight, yeah, I cleaned the house, and I mean, I was going to podcast yesterday, but by the time I finished cleaning the house, it was 1 o'clock, and I'd been going since 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was looking a little bit sweaty and a little worse for wear, so I thought, no, I'll give it a miss for today. And in the end, Granger and I went for a lovely walk down by the River Torrens. That's not too far for us here. It's about a 5-minute drive just to go down to a linear park. And we had a lovely half-hour walk, and went and picked up Simon. And yeah, and then today I'm talking to you. So, but we've got a really big weekend planned, so that's a lot of fun because my sister-in-law's birthday is actually the day before mine, so hers was on Tuesday. So we're going round to her mum's place and Simon's mum's place on Sunday night, and we're going to have homemade dumplings, so I'm so excited. Aliane, Rosalie. That's my mother-in-law, is Rosalie. Aliane is Rosalie's Chinese student. So she's a university student who is boarding with my mother-in-law, and she's going to make us dumplings for dinner on Sunday night. So I'm really excited about that. Dumplings is one of my favourites. And then yes, tonight we're having a cheese night with Emma and our groomsman Chris. So that's going to be super fun. So yeah, I've just been having a really, really great week, and thank you so much everybody who has wished me happy birthday. It is much appreciated. I'm so thank you, like so grateful that, you know, you are all there in my life, and I appreciate so much that you took the time to wish me happy birthday. It was lovely. So yeah, I've had a really lovely week, and I'm really happy at the moment. So seeing how down and depressed I was a while ago, and just to feel so happy right now is really, really, really great. So I think I probably should shut up now because I'm going to start making you all want to vomit. So I guess just one more thing to mention is if you are in Adelaide and you wouldn't mind a drive up to Clare on the 20th of October, which is next Saturday, I will be up there, and Granger has just popped his head up out over my windowsill. I will be up there vending, having a little vend at Knit Spin Weave's 3rd birthday party. So there will be cake, there will be a few hand dyers. I'll try and get them all together and put them up on the screen so that you can see what's going on, give you all the details. So yeah, I will be there, Finch Yarns will be there, the 7th Girl Yarns will be there, Jess of the Sweater Collective will be there selling her patterns. So yeah, we're all having a little bit of a shindig up at Knit Spin Weave. I think it's between 10 and 2. Of course, I will put it on the screen if I'm incorrect. I'll put the details up there anyway. Yeah, so there'll be a few presentations. We've been asked to say a few words about our business and what brought us to it, and a little bit about ourselves. So there'll be little presentations, there'll be a little market area and cake and prizes and all sorts. So if you can make it to Clare on the 20th of October, definitely come along. I'd love to see you there. So, and please do tell your friends, yeah, if they're able to come. So I guess that's probably it now. I'll shut up and go and have some more water because I'm getting croaky again. But thank you so much for joining me today. And again, thank you for all the lovely birthday wishes. And I hope you enjoyed today's episode. It's a bit of a longer blather section today because so much has gone on in the last week. And yeah, I hope you are all keeping well and having fun and happy crafting, happy knitting. Please do take care, and I will see you all next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.